Everybody, welcome to Fast Cars, Fast Money. We got Talladega this week, Cup Series race here, and we are ready to get to it.
Yeah, like Coop said, it's Dega weekend. It's probably our favorite DFS weekends that we look forward to is these super speedway races where you literally have no idea who's going to win. Everyone is underneath a blanket. You get to these upset winners, these big ones, these big wrecks. A ton of lead changes, everybody drafting together. These weekends are a lot of fun for NASCAR DFS, and I know they get a lot of attention. And there's some big tournaments as well, some big contests to pay out. So, yeah, like Coop said, it's Fast Cars, Fast Money. So thank you guys so much for stopping over and checking out our content. If you haven't already, check out our Xfinity video. But if not, we're going to be talking about basically a lot of the kind of the same concepts that we are going to touch on this video. And then any comments, questions, concerns, anything you guys have, drop them down in the comments below. We'll make sure we get back to you before the slate locks, or you can find us over on Twitter. It's at FastCarsFM. So hop over there. Feel free to interact with us. Share your lines. Share what questions you have. We'll be able to help you out before the slate locks. But let's talk real quickly before we get into the breakdown of kind of the race preview and initial thoughts. So a lot of these are going to be pretty similar to what we said in the Xfinity video, but you want to focus on place differential. The short tracks last week, it was all about dominators. This week, it's the complete opposite. You really want to focus more on place differential and focus where those guys are starting than who's really going to be leading laps, because leading laps and fast laps are pretty much irrelevant at these super speedways. The fast laps are just going to get divvied up throughout the entire field, and I expect there to be a lot of different lap leaders. If they do go single file, there might be one lap leader that racks up a lot of laps led, but even then, if he wrecks out, he's probably still not going to be optimal. So a common saying you're going to hear is, stack the back. If you're playing cash games, it's exactly what you want to do. Just plug all your guys from like 28th on back. Just pick 6 guys. Doesn't really matter who it is. Just plug them in, lock your lineup. It's going to look ugly for most of the race, but as soon as there's a wreck, your line's going to move forward and there's a good chance you're going to cash. That leads me to the next point too, of like leave salary on the table. A lot of your lines probably aren't going to look that good. Like from a typical NASCAR DFS weekend, you're like, I would never play these 6 guys together. But ironically, those are usually the lines that score really well. So, don't max out the 50 grand, maybe spend anywhere between 40 to 45 or, whatever it is. Don't worry about salary at all is basically what we're saying. And also these are really good weekends to, if hey, I know the majority of the players are all going to be going to driver A and driver B starts right next to that guy, like just pivot off of that really high owned guy and try to get these lower owned plays. That way, if the higher owned guy wrecks, all those lineups that have that driver are just automatically going to start dropping, and if you don't have them, you're going to move forward. So that's kind of what I really like to focus on, but I'll ask kind of you guys too. Is there anything else from like a strategy perspective before we look at some of these drivers that you guys are kind of looking at or kind of have at the front of your mind?
The one thing I would say is don't go overweight on anybody. We have it right there. It's number 5. If you have one driver that's in all of your lines and he wrecks, that's it. You're out. So definitely play a couple lines. This is the one race where you don't want to go in heavy on one line because one line will not do it. Unless you're picking everybody from the back and you're planning on having them move forward as the wrecks happen and they're getting the pass throughs. But I just really have to stress that these super speedways can be random. There isn't the optimal line is not always the intuitive line. And definitely don't go all in on one line. Spread it out a little bit and have some fun watching the race.
All right. So let's get to the drivers. I guess we'll start with you, Rich. Are you playing anyone in the top 12, or are you avoiding this range entirely, or are you touching this range in tournaments at all? Or
yeah, in GPPs I'll probably have in each lineup, I'll probably only have one guy up here, maybe 2, and that would be like maybe in 1 or 2 of my 20 max lineups. I won't have very many guys up here, but Penske is always really good on the super speedways, and they've been really good at Talladega. So Logano, Blaney, Keselowski, Matt DiBenedetto, they're all pretty solid. They're all going to run with the Stewart-Haas cars. The Ford, there's a lot of Fords in this field compared to the Xfinity field. So I don't mind playing any of those guys. I wouldn't have more than one, maybe, like I said, maybe 2. And then the Hendrick cars they're always really solid on super speedways as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is when you get to these super speedways, the manufacturer, the logo that you have on the front of your car, it really matters, because all the manufacturers are going to work together. And then, on top of that too, the specific teams work together too. So you'll see all of Team Penske with, Logano, Keselowski, Blaney, and probably even DiBenedetto, who's like an affiliate team member. All 4 of those cars are going to be nose to tail. They're going to be looking to link up, and they're going to be working together, which can work out really well. And you can see them all move forward to the front and all get good finishes. Or it can also, hurt you if they're all together and there's a big wreck, because there's a chance that all 4 of them are going to be collected in that at once. But, I think that's a good point to pay attention to. Is there's really not that many Toyotas in the field. If you look at the Cup Series, it's really just Ford and Chevy. But some of the Toyota drivers are arguably the best drivers in the series. So I expect all the JGR to still be, in the equation. But anyone starting top 12, like on a normal week, these would all be like slam dunk plays. But this week, just because of where they start, you don't really want to have too many of them. Like Rich said, if you're playing a tournament, maybe 1. If you're really risky, maybe 2. But if you're playing cash games or single entry, don't even touch any of these guys starting in the top 12. Is that kind of what you think as well, Coop?
Yes and no. So normally, I know you two usually play a few more lines than I do. Normally, I'll in these in non-super speedway races, I'll play 2-3 lines that I feel really good about, and I'll have 1 main line. And I'm going to take a step back here too. For a super speedway, my main line is going to be drivers mostly starting in the back. I will do several lines, and where I'll pick these drivers out, I'll do maybe 1 or 2 in the top 12, 2 max. I would not go with 3, just because there's a very high chance that one of them's going to wreck and it'll dump your line. But the drivers that I'm most interested in this, so the stack is one aspect of it, but I'm also looking for drivers that are just proven skilled super speedway drivers. Denny Hamlin being the prime example of it. Kind of isn't great that he's starting on the pole, because he's got the most downside out of anybody in the field. But with that being said, Denny has a really good super speedway read, I'll put it. He knows when to lead. He wants to be out front, and if he's back and people are starting to get squirrely in front of him, he will say, nope, I'm out. I'll drop back and I'll cruise around the back and feel safe in that environment. We like Team Penske a lot. Out of Team Penske, you got Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney that are starting 7th and 10th. I would prioritize them over Joey Logano in 2nd. There's a little less downside. If they wreck a little later, they might not kill your line. And I just like them better at Talladega more than I do Logano. Normally, I'm pretty high on Hendricks. This week, I'm not so much, just because I like Team Penske a little more. But I will have exposure to the different teams. I will do, this is the one race that I'll do a lot of lines for a lower dollar figure and just see which one pans out. But in this top 12, the drivers that I personally would do, like if I'm picking 2 or 3 out of this range, it would be Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and maybe Kyle Larson, because he's starting 12th there, and I think that limits his downside.
Yeah, I think those are great points, and I know I'm definitely going to be kind of sprinkling up there. Probably like you, my main line will probably just be guys from the back and with a really high probability that it's going to cash, but hoping that, hey, maybe I get lucky on some of these more aggressive lines, because we know that the aggressive line always takes down the tournament, but the safer stack from the back line usually cashes. So, if I can hit both of those, great. But if I miss with my aggressive ones, hopefully my main line playing most of those guys from the back will, still net me a good day. So looking at the 13 through 24 range, we sorted them by starting position. We normally do salary, but for these super speedway races, I think it's a little bit easier to build your line when you sort it this way. So that's what I would recommend doing if I were you. Guys in this range that I really like, Almirola is really good at these super speedway races. The 2 wins that he have come from these. I think they're both at Talladega, actually. So they're both on these super speedway races. He has a great average finish. Like Denny Hamlin, he's good at knowing when to avoid the wrecks and being there at the end. And Stewart-Haas has been pretty bad so far this year, but this would be a race that they could easily rebound, and I could see Almirola, getting a win. Another guy I really like is Ricky Stenhouse. This is probably Stenhouse's favorite track, even more so than Daytona, just because it's wider and he has more room to move around. If you remember last year, he almost won this race. He finished second to Ryan Blaney, like barely. It was like a photo finish at the line. Stenhouse is going to be in the equation again. He's either probably going to finish like top 3 or he'll probably wreck out. But I love just the upside that he has. So I love Stenhouse. And then Chris Buescher and Bubba Wallace were 2 other guys that I liked. Chris Buescher always seems to run pretty well in the super speedways, and he's a forward, so I can see him pairing up with, Penske or Stewart-Haas and, just basically copying their strategy. And then Bubba Wallace, we saw how kind of aggressive he was in the Daytona 500, and there was good moments of him running up front, and it's basically a 5th JGR car. So it's another car for Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell to draft with. And I like those guys a lot. So, but Bubba Wallace starts way further back than all the other guys do. So I think he has some good upside.
Yeah, in this range, I really like Ricky Stenhouse. He's probably one of the drivers I might be the most overweight on, just because of how good he is at these super speedways. And then I do really like Bubba Wallace as well. The 24th starting position is really solid. I have a feeling he might end up dropping to the back with Denny Hamlin. I'm pretty sure they both did the same thing in the Daytona race, but I think Bubba got a little unlucky in that race, though. So yeah, in this range, those are probably the 2 I'm looking at the most. Like I said in the Xfinity video, everybody is playable. Everybody on the track is playable.
Yeah. So again, if I'm going with the line where I'm playing one guy out of the 1 through 12, then I might play 2 guys in this range. If I'm playing 2 guys in the 1 through 12, I'm only playing 1 guy in this range, because you really want to limit your downside in your lines. So you definitely want to still focus on the back. But I really like this mid-range, and I like all the guys we got high here. I like Almirola a lot. Talladega is where he shows up most years. I mean, he's just come in every year and done really well. Last year, he had the spinning finish across the finish line in the big one to get 3rd, but he waited until the very end to spin out there, and he just knows how to be there at the end and make sure that he's there for the finish. Ricky Stenhouse is the same way. The guy's famous for wrecking. He hasn't done it this year at all, and he's great at this track. So I really love Ricky Stenhouse this week. Another guy that we have medium here, but I still have a lot of interest in, is Daniel Suarez. He usually runs clean. He's not a guy that you usually see get caught up in wrecks. It's super speedways. There's absolutely nothing you can do in the big one in a lot of situations, but Daniel Suarez has a record of running clean. And I also like, in the super speedways, I like a guy that has a record of running clean, because it means they're just a little more cautious maybe, or able to swerve out of the way when that wreck happens. And then I do like Chris Buescher and Bubba Wallace as well. But in this range, I really think that Ricky Stenhouse is probably the highest again, the highest owned driver that I'll have. Same as you guys.
Yeah, Stenhouse is just too much fun. I mean, even if he wrecks out, like I just love watching him race on these super speedway races. So he'll probably be a high owned guy, but I think it's worth it just based off of the upside that he has. And then once you get to these drivers starting basically 25th on back, 25th all the way to 40th, Timmy Hill, they're starting last. These are really the guys you want to plug in first, and these are the guys you want to build around. Whether you're playing GPPs or cash games, they have just the most upside. They're the safest. If they wreck, they're not going to kill your line. Whereas if you play one of those guys starting the top 12 and they wreck, it's really going to hurt you. So even like the Rick Ware cars, the MBM equipment, like the BJ McLeod, the Live Fast team, like even these back marker ugly punts that we would always have none interest on, these are the weeks that we have the complete opposite. It's like, hey, I want to be trying to stack maybe 3, even 4 of these guys, or even 6 if you're playing cash, or even your main line of just kind of these back marker cars where you have a ton of salary left on the table. If you have like free squares, if there's anything it's like free squares for NASCAR DFS, like I think Harrison Burton and Kaz Gralla starting 39th and 38th would be kind of my 2 free squares, just based off of the kind of the equipment that they're in, knowing that they can probably maintain it and run with that lead pack. And they basically start last, so they have so much upside. But is there anyone back here that you guys have a good feeling about?
Yeah, I have a really good feeling about Justin Haley. He's got several wins at Daytona in the Xfinity race back to back, I think. And he's very good at these super speedways. So I'm really interested to see what he can do in the Cup Series at a super speedway. And at Talladega starting 34th. I really like that. So big on Justin Haley. Moving up a little further, I'm also high on Ryan Newman. He'll probably be high owned, but it's another guy that, as long as he's not getting caught up in the big one, there's nothing he can do. He'll avoid those wrecks. He's he's got low downside, and if he gets through the wrecks, he's going to be a great play. I think he can have a really good finish here. Ryan Preece, another guy at Talladega, he's got a good record, and I think that if he runs clean, again, I think he can be a top 10 guy at the end of the day. I mean, these super speedways are so random, but some of these guys just have results where they stay clean, and it's not even the guys that in a regular race you would expect to stay clean. But Ryan Preece is another guy I have high interest in. And then moving down to the bottom, Kaz Gralla and Harrison Burton there, starting 38th and 39th. I really like both of them as well. And I also like Timmy Hill and JJ Yaley, just because of their starting position, 37th and 40th. They've got almost no downside. If they run through a couple wrecks, that's PD points that you're getting. And I think that they have a very good chance of moving forward, because the wrecks will happen. And as long as they stay clean, they're only going to get you points. And if they don't stay clean, they're not losing you points. And somebody is going to play somebody in the top 12 that's going to wreck, and they're going to get a bunch of negative points, and these guys can't get you those negative points. So those are the drivers that I would highlight in the back. But again, really stack the back, have some different drivers back here. Don't go all in on one guy. Have a lot of exposure to a lot of different drivers, and hopefully you'll see some success.
Yeah, back here, I agree with both of you guys. Kaz Gralla and Harrison Burton, they're probably the top guys you want to get from the back of this race. But I have a feeling both of these guys are going to end up being well over 65, 70% owned, just because everybody else is going to end up doing the same thing. So if you're going to end up playing a guy from the top 12, or maybe multiple guys from the top 12, and you're already going in a GPP route, it's all right to go ahead and play a Joey Gase or Josh Bilicki, one of these guys, or Cody Ware. These guys aren't going to be super high owned. I mean, they're going to be higher than they normally own on a if we're at a 1.5 mile track or a mile track, but they're going to be a lot less owned than Kaz Gralla, Harrison Burton, Timmy Hill, even Justin Haley. So that's about where I'm at. I will definitely have a lot of Gralla and Harrison Burton, but if I'm trying to be more GPP, then I'll have some of those guys in there as well.
Yeah, everybody talks about, a Team Penske stack or a Team Hendrick stack. And, I think this is a great week for the Rick Ware stack of stacking these Rick Ware cars. And, obviously salary doesn't really matter too much. But if you try to do like a Team Hendrick stack or a Team Penske stack, I don't know if it's going to work out salary-wise. And you probably don't want to be grabbing that many drivers starting that close to the front. So, and a lot of other people are really afraid to play some of these back marker, like just crap equipment cars. And like Rich said, JJ Yeley starts one position higher than Gralla. And if Gralla wrecks, he's going to have so much more ownership than Yeley will. So don't, like Coop said too, don't go overweight on any driver, even if it's a back marker who you think is, extremely safe. Because what if he wrecks out and finishes 39th? Yeah, it's not going to hurt your line, but it's not really helping your line either. So just mix and match. But that's going to be it for the cup video. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all of the support we've been getting over the first 9-10 weeks of NASCAR this year. It's been awesome to see all the growth and all the comments and the support you guys have shown on the video and over on Twitter. So keep up the good work and best of luck this weekend, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. Good luck, everyone. Be smart with your money this week.
Good luck, guys.